All right, guys, welcome back to the show, Ben Dyke's channel. Tonight, I have special guests, retired, as you see down there at the bottom, retired FBI. I don't know if you actually ever really retire from the FBI, but this is Chris Payota. Chris, retired FBI, welcome to the channel. I really appreciate you. I wanted to pick your brain tonight about what we've seen. I saw you over on CBS News just a couple of days ago talking about everything that was happening in Minnesota. And the one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and the title of the stream tonight is how politics took over the FBI. In your opinion, feel free to introduce yourself, who you are, give a little backstory of your career. But that's kind of the goal. I wanted to get the idea of if politics has really interwoven, intercepted. Uh-oh, somebody says sound. We got no sound? Hold on a second. Let me see here. Let me make sure we've got sound. You can hear me though, Chris, right? Oh, let's see here.
I can hear you, but I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Somebody said it was an echo. Chat, can y'all hear Chris? Let's see here. If you can hear Chris, let me know.
Yeah, test.
I can hear you. I hope they can hear you. If not, that's all right too. We'll figure it out. 5x5. Okay, we got 5x5. Good sound, both of us. We're good to go. Go right ahead, Chris. Introduce yourself. Sorry about that. My apologies.
No, got to get the tech stuff right. Hey, everybody, glad to be back with you and Ben. And my name's Chris Payota, as Ben said. Spent 25 years with the FBI and worked in a number of capacities across the organization through that 25-year time frame. And started out as a street agent working in Newark, New Jersey, one of the most terrible places in the country. And went from there, 9/11, did the whole counterterrorism thing for over a decade, did a lot of work internationally for the U.S. government, a lot of international operations. I did some counterintelligence work, a lot of technical operations, things of that sort, ran field office operations. So seen a lot of the FBI. There's not a lot of it I haven't seen or done. And I watched the FBI change over the course of my career, and not for the better in a lot of ways. So, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll get some questions, but the FBI went from being that organization of the old G-men who they taught me how to be an FBI agent to this new corporatized FBI that you could see where it's kind of led us over the last maybe 5 to 7 years. Not so great. So glad to be with you, and look forward to the conversation.
Chris, the one thing that I realized when Trump took over, the most recent, I understood that he had Jeff Sessions, and then he had Christopher Wray. But I think before that administration, nobody really, the average person on the street really didn't know who the director of the FBI was. And I believe before Dan Bongino was appointed to deputy director, nobody really on the street, I don't think I could have asked anyone at my cigar shop, hey, who's the FBI deputy director? But things sort of changed. And I believed that a little bit of that is politics. I believe a little bit of it is Hollywood, and a little bit of it is social media. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you saw the advent of the celebrity FBI director with Jim Comey, right? Comey was always on television. He was always out doing things. He was trying to, change and update the brand of the FBI. So he saw himself as that outward-facing person. He started that kind of celebrity FBI person. When Robert Mueller was there, you never saw Mueller anywhere. You never heard about it. He would testify on the Hill. That's when you'd see him on television.
Okay.
But otherwise, Bob Mueller, he was just in the building taking care of business. Comey comes in, and he started that kind of celebrity FBI presence, and then it was kind of moved on. With Christopher Wray, really, he didn't push that, but he didn't fight it either, right? Where he was on TV sometimes, but he did 60 Minutes, and he did stuff like that. I think where you really got the celebrity director position right now is, of course, with Director Patel, and then with the recently departed Deputy Director Bongino. Very well known, very public facing, very active in the podcast world, and that's where I think the whole thing has changed. The complexion of it has shifted. Again, I don't think it's for the better.
I don't think so. I mean, whenever I think back before the President Trump's administration, when I thought of FBI director, I'm thinking of like Elliot Ness. I'm thinking like Kevin Costner. You know, I'm like that's the old G-men that I thought of, right? Robert Stack on Unsolved Mysteries. He played Elliot Ness. It never really got to me.
Well, you remember the old show Dragnet, right?
I love
Just
Dragnet.
the facts, ma'am. Black and white, you know, Joe Friday, right? And that's what people saw the FBI as for many years, and it changed, and it started changing and really kind of shifting when Jim Comey came on board.
Right.
He was the one who pushed that big philosophical and ideological change for the organization. He started trying to run the bureau like you would run Netflix or Google. Yeah. And that really hurt the organization.
Chris, I've got a lot of people asking some questions here, and I'm seeing this one over and over. What are your impressions of Kash Patel? We'll start off. No softballs here. What are your impressions?
Okay. I think Kash Patel has good intentions. I think he came in and he really wanted to make some change to the FBI because of how he felt he was treated and what he saw during the investigations into President Trump. He saw there was some what he considered to be kind of dirty pool going on, right? So he felt as though he was going to come in and help realign the organization. The main problem that Director Patel is running into, and he will continue to run into, is one, he doesn't have the experience of running an organization like that, and that's not pejorative. That's like I couldn't go and run General Motors, right? Mm-hmm. It's just it is what it is, right? So even if he is the political head of the FBI, which is fine, he doesn't have a leadership team around him that will support and run the bureau in the fashion that he wants it to be run, and he doesn't have that team around him that will break the organization down, make it what it's supposed to be, and then enforce the standards and procedures and practices. He doesn't have that. So that's where he's struggling. And I think when Bongino came in, I think Dan Bongino thought he would have a lot more authority and impact. And people don't realize this, but right before Bongino came on board, they changed the deputy director role.
Really?
Yeah, they changed the role, and the deputy director of the FBI was as powerful as the director, but he was the operations chief. He was the most senior FBI agent in the organization. Everybody worked for the deputy director when it came to investigations and operations, right? He oversaw all that stuff because the directors are political, right? So when it comes down to overseeing investigations, operations, how the FBI runs, that was the deputy's job. And then they took all that power away, and Bongino came in, and I don't think he had the impact that he wanted.
You know, that's the thing that I've got a really good friend of mine is the local sheriff. And the sheriff is a political figure, but he's got a chief deputy that is the ball breaker, that is the knuckle dragger. And so in your opinion, I'm reading between the lines here, the deputy director should be the operations chief, should have been a G-man, should have been somebody that had been on the streets. Right.
Absolutely. Because, well, I'll tell you this much. If I was sitting in a room with a bunch of these guys and they were feeding me bullshit, I would know it in a second. I could tell them that's unacceptable. He won't know that. He won't be able to call bullshit. Right.
Right.
He won't be able to see when things aren't being done like they should be, or if things are being slow rolled, or if things are kind of being done in a, I would say, less enthusiastic manner. He doesn't know what right is. He doesn't understand. Now, he'll learn over time, right? Now, no doubt he'll learn, but this isn't an on-the-job training role as being the director of the FBI, right?
Yeah, I don't want anybody figuring shit out at the deputy director level.
And that's part of the problem. And then they brought in this co-deputy director. I believe he was the attorney general in Missouri. Now he's the co-deputy director. I don't even know what that means because that's never been a role that the FBI has had. There's always been one deputy director. and then other people under him. That's where I was. I worked right under the deputy director. We were the six of us kind of ran programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Across the bureau. The deputy was our boss, and all field offices reported to the deputy director because they ran all of our operations and investigations. So now they have this kind of, I don't know, Cash was coming in. He says he's going to get rid of bureaucracy. Seems like he created some more bureaucracy. I'm not sure how that's working right now. I hear mixed reviews on some things, but again, I think he had good intentions. I just know that good intentions can sometimes lead to a bad place.
Here's the question I've got. Now, I don't know about if anybody's ever asked you this. How close is the Attorney General's office to the FBI Director's office? Are they next door?
It's across the street. No, it's across the street.
They're not in the same building.
No. The FBI, the Hoover building, sits on one side of Pennsylvania Avenue, and right across the street is the Department of Justice.
Okay. Because the way that a lot of people build this is, I'm sure there's a lot of blame to go around for Pam Bondi. There's a lot of blame to go around for Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. But the way that they have sold this is that they work so closely together. In a typical day, how often does the Attorney General and the FBI Director get together? They have a morning meeting. They have a morning brief. I mean, that's my thought. That's my question. And then Nathan, I'll grab your question after this.
Yeah, typically in the morning, there's a cycle of meetings that cranks up early in the morning. And one of those meetings is where the FBI director goes over to see the Attorney General. They talk about whatever the topics of the day are. And then the Attorney General goes to the White House.
Okay.
Or he'll bring the director with him if he needs him to come with him for some reason. But the FBI director, people don't realize, the FBI director is not a cabinet level official. It's the Attorney General.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. Here's a question for you from one of my subscribers, Nathan, long time. Sure. Do you think Dan Bongino and Trump are playing 5D chess? Maybe a few things became unclassified before he left and can reach a larger audience through his show with that info. Does he have to sign an NDA? I mean,
yeah. You're NDA'd all over everything. And also, he's got to watch that if he's going to talk about certain things. I don't know if there's any kind of that, 5D chess, as they're calling it. I don't think that's the case. But Bongino's got to be careful because he doesn't want to talk about sensitive or classified or some other way controlled information on his show. He's got to walk that fine line of informing the people without giving out information that is inappropriate for broad public dissemination. So he's got to walk that line.
So in my opinion, by hearing that, if I am seeing posts by Dan Bongino or other people talking about him coming back to Rumble, it's not going to be like an unclassified, declassified. He's telling all the secrets in his first episode. I can't expect that. Mm-hmm. I didn't think so.
No, and I wouldn't expect that. What I would expect is for him to, this is my own guess. He's going to come out, first of all, he's going to try and tell everybody he's glad to be back and all that kind of good stuff. And he's going to give them a little bit of a snapshot of the day. You remember he went on that one interview and he was talking about how hard it is, how many hours he has to work.
Oh, yeah.
He misses his family.
Yeah.
And he'll probably color that a little bit more with the workload, the burden that you carry day to day. It's crushing some days. And when I heard that, I was telling my wife, I was like, well, of course it is. You're the number 2 guy at the FBI. I mean, sounds like you're complaining. Being the number 2 guy at the Bureau is a privilege,
I send the people that work for me home before I go.
I mean, it's just, I used to kick people out of the office all the time, tell them, get out of here. There's nothing going on today. I'll need you to stay late another time, but not today. But, when you're the number 2 guy, there's always something for you to be worried about. There's always something going on, and there's always a reason for you to be in the office.
Here's a question for you from Betty. What do you think about Bill Clinton not showing up for their hearing in Congress? Bill Clinton was he was subpoenaed, supposed to testify in Congress today, didn't show up. I think that's called contempt. I'm not a legal scholar by any means. I'm a redneck from Lower Alabama. But what are your thoughts on that? I didn't expect him to show up, but what kind of ramifications occurs from this?
Nothing. They'll do nothing. They'll send him some nasty letters. They'll threaten him with contempt. He's the former president of the United States. Nothing will happen to him. If anything, what he'll do is he'll have attorneys go in on his behalf and parlay for him. He's not going. He's not going there. There's no way he comes out on top, or it's beneficial to him to sit in front of a congressional committee and be grilled on things. That's just not. That's not going to be helpful for him on any level.
Okay.
So he just won't show up.
Another question for you, Joe. Does Chris feel that there are still many liberal infiltrators in the FBI interfering with operations? I believe that question is going to lead into the next one, where we're going to talk about this Secret Service guy that has just been caught on camera by James O'Keefe as part of J.D. Vance's team. What do you think about this? Because when I want law enforcement, I don't want to know what party they're in. I don't want partisan cops or state troopers or ATF or whatever. I don't want that. But sadly, it's not the world we're in. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, when I was coming up, we never knew anybody's affiliation on politics. We never talked about that stuff. It didn't matter, right? It didn't matter what was going on. We were there to enforce the law and take care of the FBI's business. But what I will tell you is, over the past several years, remember I told you the culture of the FBI has broken down. The culture of the FBI has eroded over time. And now you get these people who have been allowed into the organization, and they wear their personal beliefs and their ideological holdings on their sleeve. They can't keep it out of the investigative and operational work. And that's when you have people saying and doing things that make it sound like they have a preference, that they have a position. And you can't have that. There's nothing in the law that says there is democratic law, there's liberal law, there's conservative law. It doesn't work that way. There is the law. And the FBI also lost its steel as an organization, right? It lost its ability to navigate the political environment. The FBI used to be much better about just telling people that, hey, we're not doing that. Not happening, right? Mm-hmm. And now the FBI has become an organization that capitulates on everything. And that's weak. That is weak, unprincipled leadership at the top. And it rolls through the whole organization. So I think anybody who is, and that gentleman said, do we still think there are some left-leaning people in the organization? Absolutely. Absolutely. But if they can keep that out of their business, okay. But if they can't, then they should be invited to leave.
Yeah.
Right away, right? And the same thing goes for anybody on any kind of extreme ideological position, Ben. They can't do the job properly. They got to go.
Yeah. It's like on YouTube. I watch, if my subscribers saw the channels I subscribe to, they'd be like, Ben's a leftist. I like knowing my enemy, or I like knowing how the other side thinks. And I watch a lot of liberal channels, a lot. I got to get your opinion on this, and then we're going to jump into the J.D. Vance thing. It says, when we were talking about the Clintons, Irene says, so why did Steve Bannon, and Navarro go to jail for the same thing? They were contempt of Congress. They both went to jail. Right. What's the difference there? Is it because he's a president? Is it because... I don't understand that. That's a great question, okay. Irene. Thank you so much.
Yeah. My position on that is, yes, it's because he's a former president. And second of all, the administration that put those gentlemen in jail wanted to do it, and they did it. Mm-hmm. Now, this administration doesn't seem yet to have the, I don't know what you call, maybe just the gumption to take some of these corrupt people and put them in jail yet. We just haven't seen that. But the other administration, the previous administration, they wanted these guys to go to jail. They flexed some muscle, and they put these guys in actually prison. They went to prison.
They went to prison. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had the political will to do so, and they did it to make an example of them.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about this. Let me see. Let's go here. Chat, this came out today. Secret Service agent on J.D. Vance's detail was just put on leave after James O'Keefe, the guy that nobody recognizes, undercover trashing ICE agents, revealing future security plans days in advance. His name is Thomas Escoto. He says, I hate ICE shit. What does the... Number one, what are your thoughts? And then number two, what does the FBI do when they see a Secret Service agent? I mean, and you can see his badge right here, you know? This is crazy. This is crazy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
I'll shut up and listen.
No, I mean, you can see that the Secret Service has also has gone through a hard time, right? With the whole way they were performed up through and including Butler, PA, and then up to now. They still have a culture problem. Like the FBI has a culture problem, so does the Secret Service. They are not the Secret Service of old. They're not those people. And I think we've been hiring people over time that have these very, again, liberal leftist views. They can't, they wear their emotions on their sleeve. And this guy, obviously, I guess he was hoping for some sort of relationship here. So he was willing to talk about things that are very sensitive. Now, one of the things, you know, we were always told, if you think you want to say something about that type of work, think again and then shut your mouth. You don't talk about stuff like that. And we were always taught to shut up.
I mean, I'm a submarine guy, silent service, loose lips, sink ships. And
Absolutely.
I think a Secret Service agent, what I'm assuming kind of information he would have, movement, plans, meetings.
Oh, absolutely.
He could get the president or even the vice president killed. That's my guess.
Well, here's my thing, and I think the Secret Service still requires an overhaul, just like the FBI does, right?
Okay.
They both require overhauls. But I will tell you this, the business of the Secret Service and their protective division is much more serious. I would recommend, if my opinion mattered, I would say from here until we can get a new Secret Service stood up, I'm going to take a bunch of pipe hitters from the military, and they're going to be my new protective detail.
I agree.
I'm going to take a bunch of military pipe hitters.
Yeah, because I think right now it's the only people you could trust. It says every one of those Secret Service agents should have to take a polygraph. I had to take polygraphs, but at the same time, you took polygraphs. Yeah. I think for the big part they're effective, but there's ways around it. I'm sure, you know.
Yeah, but the polygraph will see what they do is a lot of times they do counterintelligence polygraphs, right? You do a lifestyle poly to get in, and then they do counterintelligence polys every 5 years or sooner if there are incidents, right? If there's anything going on. A counterintelligence poly just makes sure that you're not a spy. They ask you basically, are you a spy? No. Do you know any spies? No. Are you a terrorist? No. Do you know any terrorists? No. You know, and they ask you a couple of other questions to make sure you're not an intelligence risk or that you have a risk of being compromised. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
So they're not looking for these deep character flaws anymore once you get on the job.
Here's a question for you. Let's get into this. Chris, what is your opinion on how Minneapolis mob should be handled? I'm a firm believer. I saw your interview where you said a vehicle can be used as a deadly weapon. I agree. How do you think the mob should be handled right now? Because I think everybody wants them to just go out and arrest everyone. But I think that there's just, there's not it's like 200 to 1 for cops versus the people that are there. What are your thoughts? How do they handle this?
Well, the first thing moving through is I think since we had the fatality in Minneapolis, it's a good time for ICE, DHS to have a strategic pause and ask themselves that same question. I think you got to look at how are we going to deal with this rising level of hostility where now Americans think it's acceptable to, one, impede their progress and physically make contact with them, two, to act in provocative ways, and three, to actually force confrontations for social media, right? So ICE has got to figure this out with how they're going to do this. Now, I will tell you that we've treated these people with kid gloves for many years now, and they think they can do whatever they want. So it's hard to put that genie back in the bottle just by arresting everybody, right? I don't think that's the option that we're going to be able to look at. One thing I will tell you, though, is that the cooperation in some of these cities is zero between the local and state officials and the federal officials. If Minneapolis PD was out there doing crowd control and telling these people, go home. We know who you are, go home. We're not going to tolerate this. And if you step over these lines, if you come within 25 feet of these men while they're doing their jobs, we're going to arrest you and we're going to take you to jail right now. You would watch a lot of that stuff dissipate, but we don't have the partnership right now. And what they're trying to do, Ben, is they're trying to force these confrontations. They're like that lady who unfortunately lost her life. She's going to become a martyr.
Yeah.
The anti-ICE martyr, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't have an answer on how to take care of it overall, but I do think we have to start looking at our protective stance. I think ICE should be a little bit more well-resourced and fortified when they go out. You can't go out with 4 guys, and then you're surrounded by 10 cars and 100 people with bullhorns. Right?
I think they should be using MRAPs. I say you put 12 of them in an MRAP, you know?
Well, that's an optics thing too. They don't want to have tanks rolling down the streets. It's already bad enough people are screaming and yelling, right? People are screaming and yelling that these guys are wearing military style web gear and everything else. They're out there with M4s, and people are already screaming about that. We start rolling MRAPs down the street. I mean, people are going to go nuts. I understand what you're saying from a protective standpoint. Yeah, it makes good sense, but I don't know if the optics, and that's what everybody's concerned about. We're substituting optics for tactics, right? So optics rule right now, not tactics. So I think they have to figure out how to take a better defensive position. How do they go out and here's another thing. What is their de-escalation philosophy?
I don't know that.
Because listen, let me ask you a question, right? If they would have got out of the car, now I don't know how many times they've interacted with those people in Minneapolis before the fatality, but right, so it could have been the 10th incident that day. Your patients are wearing thin, you're getting some battle fatigue, right? But if they would have walked over to the car and said, hey, man, you know what? You got to move your car. If you don't move your car, I'm going to take this truck right here and I'm going to push your car out of the way so our caravan can move through. I don't want to damage your vehicle, but we're not going to stand here and have a standoff. Tell me how you want me to do this, right? I don't know what she would have done. Go ahead, hit my car. All right, come on, let's go. Push her out of the way, right? I don't. Maybe she wouldn't have gotten shot. I don't know. But then again, she didn't have to be there either, physically blocking the road of their car, and then having that incident where she actually hit one of the ICE agents. That was one thing I said on CBS News. I said, she actually hit one of them. No, she didn't. Yes, she did.
Yes, she did.
Right?
I saw saw the host. Yeah. Yeah.
No, she didn't. I believe she did. But the fact is I think this is a good strategic pause incident for them. I think they got to look at how they're going to protect their people while still executing the mission. Because if the opponents of this movement to get rid of illegal aliens, if they see all they have to do is force confrontations and the government will back down, well, then they're done. So I just
Minneapolis
think they have to
police was running from the protesters. They literally got in their car and drove away.
Right, because they don't want to have a problem, and they've been told by their leadership, you will not intervene, you will not you will not help the federal authorities. They've been told.
Heidi brings up a point about paid agitators. Is there a division in the FBI that is looking into funding who is paying for these people? Because they all look well dressed. They're all wearing, the fads. They've all got iPhones. They've all got the nicest equipment to record everything. Someone's paying for it. They're not working. I get up and go to work. I don't have time to frickin' protest. Is there a division in the FBI that's looking into who is paying for it?
Absolutely. You're going to find there'll be a collaboration between the Counterterrorism Division and the Criminal Investigative Division. Okay. Those two different divisions will work together, and they'll start looking at all of the same types of records. They're going to trace money. They're going to look and find out who these people are. They're going to start developing a network. They're going to see where did these same people show up at different venues. They're going to start looking at transportation. They're going to look at everything. And then they can put together a network, and they can start seeing where the money comes in. And that's where you go and you pinch off that money, And then all of their nicely printed signs and everything that goes away. You're not paying these people to stand outside and yell on a bullhorn. You can lessen it that way. I just don't think they're far enough into that work to make a difference yet.
Here's a question from Steven, or a statement, but I think it leads to a question. Is it likely that there are undercover people within these agitators or within these groups? I got a really good friend of mine. He's written a book about it. I can talk about it. He was with the DEA, or sorry, ATF. He infiltrated a 1% motorcycle club, and was actually voted as the president of this club. It led to like 35 people being charged with RICO. They actually had to fake his death to get him out of the club. Yeah. It just makes sense to me that there are some undercover people in there. Is that true?
Well, what you're going to have is the use, or I would say the combined use, of possible undercover agents, actually FBI agents undercover. But what you're also going to have is where the FBI has recruited human assets in those organizations, or they've created human assets who went and joined those organizations as trusted members.
Okay.
And then they report back to the FBI, and then they are those human informants that the FBI uses for intelligence, for just general information, finding out who's who, if you're looking for an organizational takedown, whatever they're trying to do. So you'll have a combination. I would say the more likely you're going to see more people of human informants than you will see of undercover FBI agents.
Okay. Here, I'm going to take you a little. When did you join the FBI? You retired, so I don't know what year that you joined the FBI.
I joined the FBI in 1995.
95. Okay, I joined the Navy end of 93. Okay, gotcha. Now, I want to talk about this. This was Stephen Paddock, age 64, Las Vegas. Why do we know more about some of these most recent things than we do about this guy? Because I tried to find stuff on this. This is like forbidden fruit or whatever, right? We don't know much about Stephen Paddock. We don't know. I've got a whole little. We don't know much about Paddock. We don't know much about Thomas Crooks, this guy. We still don't know much about this guy, other than there are pictures of him with Zelensky and Biden and multiple Democrat congressmen. And then now we have got Jack Smith about to testify in court. But what can you tell us about the Las Vegas shooting that maybe we don't know? What
I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead.
No, I was going to say that tragedy, you talk about the Mandalay Bay shooting, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that tragedy happened. And to be perfectly honest with you, a lot of folks think that there's a cover-up, and I think a lot of it comes down to they don't know certain things. They were never able to find out why he did this. They really don't know why he did this. And when we were looking at the means, the motive, the crime scene, and the way we had video with him carrying the guns up to the hotels and everything, up to the hotel room, and they don't know why he did it. They don't know why. And if there was some big conspiracy on this, I wasn't part of it and I didn't know about it. I was left out of that one, right? But
I've just never been able to find any information. Yeah. It's just like
didn't know. Yeah, they didn't know. And I think when he was deceased on the scene, they just never found out. As far as, some of the other instances you mentioned, like you talk about Jack Smith with his they paid that FBI informant. That is standard investigative protocol to use informants, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the problem with this one is that it's not illegal to do so, but what people are questioning is you were doing this on what they consider to be a political witch hunt, and you were developing and paying informants to try to get dirt on Republicans or then I would say just President Trump, right?
Sure,
You're trying to get dirt, and you're recruiting people, and you're paying them with the taxpayers' money to do this. I think that's the rub here, because using informants, standard FBI, it's standard law enforcement practice, right? Anywhere.
Just not as politically motivated.
Yeah, I think that's the big rub, is that people see it as, hey, it was politically motivated, and you're using the taxpayers' money to do this.
Yeah.
That's where I think people have the big kind of, grimace on that. This one here, I don't know. This guy, I don't know what happened to this guy, but I will tell you, from what I saw from the Butler shooter, the FBI at the time was reluctant to put anything that had to do if the subject had anything to do with one of those protected communities.
Right.
The trans and take
the flag people. Yeah.
Yeah. Take your pick of whatever kind of fringe community they were part of. And the FBI, if they were, multi-gender, all that nonsense, the FBI was reluctant to put anything out because the people in charge at the time, they were more left leaning, and they were more in line with the previous administration. They didn't want to, and they would say, we don't want to stigmatize anybody. And I'm thinking, there were some people stigmatized by bullets, so maybe that should be more important than someone else's feelings getting hurt. But that was how they were doing business at the time. Yeah, that other gentleman, I don't know why we don't hear anything, and you know what they're going to say is, we don't want to jeopardize the case. We don't want to jeopardize the prosecution.
Right.
That's what you're going to hear.
What do you think about this? Patel is coming out. This is from Kash Patel's own X account. Under President Trump's leadership, this FBI found the corrupt actors behind Arctic frost terminated their employment last year. What are your thoughts on this?
I have mixed feelings on it. I think if there were people that were, again, engaged in partisan operations or ideologically based operations, they should have been shown the door. So if that was the case, then he did the right thing. I just don't think that if you have a couple of agents who were doing what they were told to do, they were following legal instructions. I'm not talking moral or ethical. I'm talking legal, right? They were being told what to do. They followed orders, and then they were terminated for it. That's where there's a balancing point there, where I asked somebody this one day, I was having this discussion, and they said, well, they should have quit. I said, well, when's the last time you had a disagreement with your boss? Oh, yeah, I have them all the time. And I said, when's the last time they asked you to do something you didn't like? Oh, it happens all the time. Well, did you quit?
No.
Well, no.
You got a family to feed.
So I'm not justifying. I'm just trying to look at it from both sides of, hey, I'm a good soldier. I'm going to do what I'm told until somebody asks me to do something unsafe or illegal. Right?
Here we go.
So, and like I said, there's a lot of emotion on that from both sides. Everybody thinks these people should be prosecuted. People think they should have quit. So I'm just saying that Patel went in with the mindset of, hey, any openly partisan folks, we're getting rid of them. And that's what he did. And the only thing I saw in that article that's interesting is he said they got rid of all these people. Well, only 100, and I think it was right around 140 were separated for other reasons. All the other people who left were retirements, and they quit.
Right. Yeah.
So I think people are giving that the stink eye, because they're saying, wait a minute, 138 people out of 35,000 FBI employees, that's what you're calling progress? Or let's even, if we're playing the numbers game, let's move that down. Between 35 and 36,000 FBI employees total. You got about 13,000, between 13,000 and 14,000 of them are agents. Right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at 138 people that you're calling, these partisan actors were separated, that's 138 out of 13,000.
Yeah, it's not many. It's like natural attrition. Here's a question for you. Do you think Trump should replace Kash? If so, who do you think he should replace? I don't know if you get anyone confirmed. That the way Congress is divided right now, we're about to go into a shutdown. January 30th, the government's about to be shut down. Everybody wants to get rid of Pam Bondi. I don't know who you could get confirmed. I don't know who you could get confirmed. What are your thoughts?
I don't know if we got to give Cash a little bit more time, because I got asked this question on a different show one time, and I said, look, it was he was in for about 6 months, and I said, look, for the magnitude of what he is being asked to do, you got to give him at least a year before you start grading, right? Before you start saying, hey, he's failing here, or he's not on point, or whatever, because he's come in and he was handed this very tall order. He's working with an organization that is in disarray, right? I mean, the FBI is in disarray. He's got people in there that he fired, a bunch of people, and now everybody's scared. And he's trying to work through that and return to some normalcy. Okay. Yeah. And again, I'm not making excuses for some of the dumb shit that he's done. He's done some stupid things, and he's done some things that show a lack of maturity and a lack of experience.
Going on the podcast with his girlfriend and talking about her music career didn't look good. Did not look good.
No, and I tell you what, I think the FBI director should also wear matching socks.
I think matching socks for an FBI director would be good. I think I don't want to see the FBI director on morning news shows. I don't want to see the FBI director on a podcast. I don't want to see the FBI director doing any of that. You worked for probably one of the most stoic, I think, intimidating FBI directors ever, and that was Mueller. Was Mueller intimidating? Because he looked intimidating.
He was a frightening man. He was a frightening man. I remember we used to go to meetings with him after 9/11. I was still a lower level guy. I'd go up there. They would drag us with them, right? They would say, hey, you guys all know what's going to go on. He used to ask these questions that were just ridiculously detailed. None of the higher ups knew. And you'd see him in there with just fierce sweat. They'd be having fierce sweat running down their faces because Mueller would come in, and he was a stern, he was a frightening man. And, he's a former Marine officer, former prosecutor, all that stuff. And even when in my book, I wrote it in my book, I said, when Director Mueller cracked a joke, maybe once a year.
I mean, I met him. I want to say he was like 6'6", 6'7". He was a big dude.
He was tall. I don't know if he was as tall as Jim Comey. Comey was 6'8".
You're right. Comey was a tall guy. Yeah.
Comey was 6'8". Mueller was a tall guy as well. That's what I mean. He also had that taller, very ramrod straight, very zipped up tight type of demeanor, and he was tough, man. He was real tough. So working for Bob Mueller was interesting, man. Watching everybody just sweating through their shirts. When people walk out of there, they can hardly breathe in some of these meetings.
Do you think that they replace Pam Bondi? Does Trump replace Bondi?
I'll tell you one thing, and it's great that you bring up the Attorney General. Here's where I think she's struggling the most, having watched this over decades, right?
Okay.
Some of them are better than others. She inherited a Department of Justice that, again, was a disaster. It was a ideologically driven disaster. She comes in and starts firing people, trying to, kind of purge out some of those so-called, holdovers from the last administration.
Okay.
Now, Pam Bondi, and this is what happened to her on several occasions, she trusted her staff and they let her down. She has a hostile staff. They don't like her.
Really?
And they
I
let
didn't
her
know
down.
that.
I think what they do is they're not gonna openly not do things for her, Ben, but they're not gonna go out of their way to help her. And they don't go out of their way to make her look good, and they don't go out of their way to not have like little procedural flubs, like that whole thing that happened in DC, where what's her name, Lindsay Halligan or Harrigan?
Oh yeah,
she was the attorney.
She wasn't confirmed.
She was the U.S. attorney taking cases against Comey. All they had to do to get around that whole thing was to have another U.S. attorney, a full-time confirmed U.S. attorney, just co-sign it with her. So when they say, "Hey, Miss Halligan, you're not a real U.S. attorney. You're an interim." Oh yeah, but this guy's a full U.S. attorney. We can't shit can it on those terms, right?
So they let
to bring the case.
They let that failure happen.
I think they're letting some of that stuff happen. The same thing with the Epstein files, right? She comes in. Oh, I have the Epstein files. The list's on my desk, and then she's handing out those stupid folders and everything, right? Here's the problem. Nobody on her staff went and sat down with her and said, "Ma'am, you're handing out 95% of what you're handing out has already been shown to the public. We're going through and doing a due diligence check to see what the last administration did and if they missed anything. So you can couch it that way and say, hey, we're just verifying. If you want to see it, you're welcome to see it all. And then we're going to start moving in. Nobody did that for her. And then she didn't check it herself. Yeah. So, and a lawyer's biggest thing is you never ask a question that you don't know the answer to.
That is right? A fact. That is a fact.
Okay, so, and she trusted them and they let her down. So I think she has a hostile staff. I don't think DOJ is running on all cylinders right now. And I think there are people who are just, through passive aggressiveness, they're going to watch her fail.
They just let shit happen and, oh, it's her fault.
Or not.
She's in charge.
Or not, right? Stuff's not happening. And she's taking all the heat for it.
Here's a question for you. Chris, what should happen to Comey for his Russia hoax involvement, Hillary Clinton cover-up? What should happen to Wray for running a rogue FBI against innocent Americans during the Biden-S show? What are your thoughts on those?
Well, here's the problem you're going to have, is you're going to see that everything they did, except for if there was any, I would say, manipulation of information, lying in affidavits or signing things that were done with knowing lies and things like that. A lot of the stuff they did was not illegal, immoral, unethical, bad decisions, partisan, maybe, right? You can start assigning those labels to it. But when you come down to legality, I don't think you're going to get them on a lot. And you can't just go to Christopher Wray and say, hey, look, you were a shitty director. Right? You were a shitty director. You were sleeping at the wheel. You let your number two in charge run the organization into the dirt. You let your number two in charge make, value DEI and woke BS. You didn't do anything about it. How do you get somebody in trouble for that? I mean, dereliction of duty. What do you do with that? Right?
It's hard to arrest somebody for being stupid.
Well, you're just bad at your job. So how do you do that? And I don't know enough about the Comey stuff, where they have certain information that, we don't get to see in the public, right? But I will tell you, when Comey was doing all of that work with the Crossfire Hurricane stuff and then the Russia stuff and everything, there was an army of lawyers looking at all that stuff. There was an army of lawyers. So illegal, probably not. Maybe stepping on the line a little bit here and there, but they can justify what they did, and it's going to be very difficult. I think if they could have got him, they would have went after him, not with that nonsense of lying to Congress.
Right. Yeah.
They went after him for that, right? Lying to Congress. If you got rid of everybody who's a liar up on Capitol Hill, the place would be a ghost town.
Yeah, it would look like the day after. Here's one for you. With the nonstop scandals, conspiracies, everybody loves a good conspiracy, and the widespread false narratives, what can the FBI do to rebuild trust as a nonpartisan organization? That's a hell of a question, Smoking Guns. That great question. What do you think, Chris?
I would say there's a Latin phrase that's called acta non verba. Actions, not words. Show me that you're going to do this. Don't tell me. I don't want to see it on X posts, and I don't want to see, I don't want to see all the BS in social media. What are you actually doing, and how are you doing it? And that, here's another thing. The whole Epstein thing, and I use that because that's one of the biggest albatross they have. Kash Patel and Pam Bondi have got to get behind they got to get behind some sort of a podium, the two of them. They got to have a conference with the whole media and everybody and just say, okay, look, we did a bad job on this. We didn't handle this very well. We didn't understand certain things. We were talking a little bit more than we should have about stuff before we really analyzed it. We didn't understand what the situation was. We didn't handle it well. We apologize for the futzing around that. The jerking around. And we're here today. Ask us your questions. We're going to answer them. Unless, again, it's classified in this forum. I can't do that, right? Because you can't, right? It's just the way it is. But I will answer anything I can. I will take all the arrows and the rocks and throw everything you can at me. And then I'm going to show you, look, we got ahead of ourselves. We didn't do a very good job. And until they do that, the American people aren't going to trust them.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get that back.
Yeah.
And it's got to be frustrating because you work for an organization. It would be the same for me if something came out of the United States Navy or come out of the submarine service. Me and my wife were talking last night. She has never seen the show Homeland. She had never seen it, right?
I've never seen it either.
Great show. Great show. So we start watching it, and it's all the spy conspiracy stuff. And I don't know how conversation.
Hey, Ben, I lived Homeland.
Yeah, you don't need to watch it, right? It's like she doesn't watch medical shows, right?
Right. And when people say to me, like, have I ever watched that movie? What was that show? 24, I think, was popular.
Oh, yeah.
Keith Rivers stuff. I'd say, no, that's what I do for a living. No, I don't. I can't watch that garbage.
So it's all about the spies. And I got literally and physically pissed off because I said the name that just gets me riled up, John Walker. He was the submarine warrant officer selling secrets for years. Just thinking of that guy gets my blood boiling because those are my guys, right? The submarine guys are my guys. And I know it's probably got to bother you just as much when you see the FBI step in another pile of shit just on a daily basis. And it's the same thing when the guy in the Navy, he took some pictures in the engine room. And I'm like, man, you dumbass. Everybody's done it. I'm like, you dumbass. He goes to prison for 5 years. Hillary doesn't get shit for a secret server. I'm like, damn it. You know, but it's frustrating.
Yeah, but you know what it is too, Ben? I just being around DC a little bit, probably more than I should have been. There's a doctrine, and I'm sure you've heard this used when you're in the military, of mutually assured destruction.
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. So all of these people in DC have that same doctrine. And it may not be where if you tell on me, I'm going to tell on this guy. And then I'm going to tell on that guy. And then he's going to tell on that guy. And the next thing you know, you have this nuclear exchange and everybody goes down, and that's the machine's never going to tell on itself.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you break that. I don't know how you break it. Because, you think about it, you get these couple of guys or ladies who go to DC with the whole, I'm going to clean things up. I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to, do all this great stuff. And then they get there and then they're put in their place. They're assimilated by the machine. They're stuffed in a corner somewhere, and you never hear from them again until they get primaried because their own party ran against them. They get them out.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
J6, can the paid assets dressed as MAGA, can they be investigated? Is there some kind of like loophole when you become an informant or a asset? I don't know. Is that
all right? So you're talking about when you send. I'll just use the word informant, right? The FBI calls them confidential human, and I'll just use the word informant. Okay. When you send informants in to places like that, you give them operational parameters. They're allowed to do certain things, not others. The handling agents, the agents who handle them, give them those operating parameters and tell them what they can and can't do. Now, there are times when you have to authorize what they call otherwise illegal activity. Okay. Right. So in order to maintain their cover and status with the organization, you can authorize them to do something illegal up to a certain point. Like, you don't want to killing people, but stealing some stuff or doing some things that they build their bona fides with the organization, right?
Right.
You can authorize that. So when you're going into a place like January 6th, and say if the FBI claims that none of its assets were there in an operational fashion, right? Mm-hmm. That's what they say. Yeah. Okay. But if I was going to send somebody in, you'd tell them, you can't do this, you can't do that. Oh, you want to dress like whatever MAGA gear and everything. I don't care. But what you cannot do is engage in like throwing rocks or, violence against the Capitol Police or whatever, right? You have to, if that happens, you got to get the hell out of there, because then I got to explain why my guy was throwing rocks at the Capitol Police, right? And being part of that mess. So yes, they can do it. It just depends on what the situation is, and because what you also may do is you may compromise your asset. right? Yeah,
Okay.
your informant. You may compromise your informant. So you have to be careful. You can spend years developing these people, and then you send them in, and they get compromised on one of these operations. So the FBI says they weren't there on in an operational status. Okay, but you can do it. It is done, and people also ask about FBI agents in the crowd, right?
Uh-huh.
And again, that is not unusual. Any of these big events you have in Washington, D.C., you will have plainclothes FBI, you'll have plainclothes Capitol Police, Metro PD. You'll have plainclothes law enforcement everywhere. It's protocol, and they're out there to give ground truth, right? They're out there to see what's going on, eyeballs, right? That ground truth of, hey, we're getting a report something's going on the corner of whatever 14th and Constitution, and somebody's going to come on and say, no, we're at 14th and Constitution, there's nothing here, we'll stand by, right? That's what they're out there for, is that kind of mingling in the crowd, also taking temperature of the crowd. Hey, things are getting kind of rough down here, people are getting agitated, you may want to send some more Metro PD this way, right? That type of command and control out in the field. So yeah, there are a lot of FBI agents. They could have been in that crowd up on the hill on J6, and they didn't do anything because it's not their standard practice to start doing crowd control.
Here's one for you. Not actually a question, kind of a comment. Bohica. Thank you, Bohica. That's a military term. Bend over, here it comes again. You've heard it, right? Yeah. Bohica says, I'm the son of a retired 25 agent, 70s to the mid 90s. Missed the days growing up when there was respect for the agents. His father was a first on the scene during the 86 Miami shootout.
No shit.
Madix.
Okay.
I don't know anything about that. Feel free to chime in and let me know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Well, the 86 shootout was a shootout where there was a series of bank robberies going on. FBI was trying, and that's back when the FBI was still in bank robbery business, right? As a primary program back in the 80s. And these guys were serial bank robbers. And what happened is they ran up on them. They tried to do a felony car stop, and a lot of people say they shouldn't have, they should have, everything, can't really Monday morning quarterback. But what happened was that shootout, it happened in Miami, by the way, but they call it the Miami shootout. And what happened was the FBI agents got out of the cars, and they all had their 38 revolvers. One guy had a shotgun, and the guy who had an MP10 or an MP5, I think it might have been an MP5 at the time, but he gets out of the car, but he never makes it there. He gets in the accident. He loses his glasses. It was this comedy of errors, right? So these guys get out of their cars with their wheel guns and one shotgun. The bank robbers get out of the car they had Ruger Mini 14s and just chewed these guys up and killed the FBI agents. And only Ed Morales.
That's who they mentioned right here. Ed Morales used a 38 special with plus P ammunition, model 686 357.
Yeah, and what happened is Ed Morales, and he was shot in the hand, and he couldn't reload his gun, his 38, because all the skin and everything from his hand was caught in his cylinder.
Holy crap!
So he went to a shotgun.
That's what it says right here.
Shotgun.
Yeah, 870.
Yeah. So he goes to the good old Remington 870, and when they were telling the story, and I've seen a couple of these guys. Gordon Howe is another one of the agents there, but he was telling the story about how Morales and this guy were standing and looking at each other, and he said this guy should have killed Morales, but for some reason he must have been bleeding out. The bad guy, he shoots right between Morales' legs, and Morales was able to shoot the shotgun at him.
That's crazy. I mean, that's some Wild West shit there.
Absolutely,
wow.
But it was a reason. But it was the main reason the FBI went to semi-automatic pistols, right?
Okay.
Because the FBI was outgunned, and when these guys jumped out, and they were able to move in a tactically sound fashion, like they flanked the agents, and they were hitting them with Mini 14s. You're hitting them with 223 rounds. I think the earlier Mini 14s were more 223 than 556, but but they chewed them up.
I'll be damned. Wow. Now they carry Glocks now. I don't even know. I don't even know what they carry.
Yeah. The FBI went to Glock 9mm. We were carrying 40s for a couple of years. we started out with Sig Sauer guns, then we went to Glocks, we went to 9s, then 40s, and then back to 9s. So they carry a variety of Glocks right
Okay.
now.
Okay. I want to pull something up here real quick, and I want to direct people over to your channel because you have started your own YouTube channel. Let me find it here. Let me find it. And Chris, like I said, and Chris, you live down in the Panhandle. Well, I call it the Pan. I grew up east of you, right on the state line of Alabama, Florida, Vernon, Chipley, right around there, right on the state line is where I grew up at. And so I'm very familiar with the area. You're not far from Eglin and all that other stuff. I'm trying to find your channel here. Hold on. Let me see here. Ordinary
People 9513.
I'm assuming badge number.
Close. It was my new agent class designator.
New agent class designator. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me see here. Boom. Should be able to do it right there.
People ask all the time, what's the 9513 for? And it was my class designator when I went to Quantico. And then you see my handle down there, right? It says at Chris Pyhota 1. People say, what's the 1 for? And I'll say, because I tried to use Chris Pyhota and YouTube for some reason said it was taken. And I'm thinking, I don't know how. There are no other Chris Pyhotas out there that I'm aware of. So I had to add a 1 to the end of my name to get the unique at designator.
Now, you're probably one of the only FBI agents I know with your level of experience that has a YouTube channel, and you give a hell of a perspective. And there was a video here that you came out with 2 days ago with this sheriff in Portland, Oregon. I believe it was Portland. It's got to be Portland, right? Everything is dumb in Portland. But this sheriff, and I'll bring it up here, and he was crying about Tren de Aragua. What in the hell is that going on for? I mean, like...
Ben, you know what we're seeing? We're seeing a real problem in the law enforcement community right now, and there he is right there, and he started crying up at the podium when he was put in a position where he had to confirm that the 2 people that were involved in the shootout with ICE, in Portland, that they had Tren de Aragua connections. So he cried because he had to give that information out and confirm that. And I'm thinking, I don't know what happened to the law enforcement community. Well, I do know what happened to it. It's been taken over by ideological clowns and wimps. But like that guy is in no way what I consider to be a lawman. He's up there crying at the podium. Whatever happened to the stoic professionalism when you'd see the chief of police or a sheriff or somebody that they're not up there crying and they're not. And then that other one in Philadelphia, that there was a lady in Philadelphia talking about how she's going to arrest ICE agents if they come to her town. And she sounds like just a buffoon. And I just think, for over the past, especially during the last administration, but they chased out all the old lawmen.
Let's do this.
They all got chased out.
Bohica says, Gordo was my dad's SAIC. I don't know what that means either.
Special agent in charge.
Okay. Bohica said that, and then Bohica said that shootout was the reason the 10mm round was developed, a crap round, but brought law enforcement out of the wheel gun. Okay. Let me do this here.
Real quick. The FBI was a proponent of the 10mm because they wanted more firepower. The problem is that the guns that we were getting weren't as dependable as we wanted at the Bureau's level, and they found that the agents couldn't manage the recoil on the fully loaded, the hot 10mm, and they weren't able to get the target reacquiring skill fast enough, and it was too much, and that's why they went to the 40, the Smith and Wesson 40, because the 10 fully loaded 10 too hot. They went to Smith & Wesson 40, which everybody says S&W doesn't stand for Smith & Wesson. It stands for shorter and weaker.
Gotcha.
Than the 10mm.
Let's do this, Chris. I take phone calls here on my channel.
Sure.
So
let's do it.
If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, cuss word, well, limit the cuss words. We're probably on some living rooms, but you've got the guy here that's been involved in a lot of stuff. And if you've got some questions, if you've got some comments, you've got something you'd like to say, a question that I have missed. I am not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I know who my dad was. I stand up to urinate, so I don't claim to be a journalist, but you're welcome to call in and get a question into Chris. And Chris, while here, Mountain Goddess has got a question for you. Says, do you think the staffers who work in the offices at the FBI are part of the problem, or do they just do what they're told? What are your thoughts on that?
The staffers, I'm not sure what you mean by staffers at the FBI offices. If you're talking about the non-agent staff,
right,
like the professional support people, I think the answer is a little bit of both. Some of them do what they told. Some of them do what they're told and nothing more. Some of them don't do what they're told, and they're protected by the civil service rules and everything else. And so you have this mediocre bunch of folks. And then there are some of them that are actually very good and very skilled and dedicated. So it's kind of a bell curve of humans in FBI field offices. I've seen some non-agent staff that were fantastic. They were, I mean, they're better than agents. And then I saw some that were just awful, which I've seen awful agents too.
Smoking Guns wants to know where Hoffa's buried. Where's Hoffa? Is there anybody that's still looking for this, or is that I would think this case.
I think it's become a novelty case where everybody every once in a while you'll see we're still looking for Jimmy Hoffa. The case is still open, that type of thing. But
what do you think about this?
Sorry,
apparently Kash Patel got into a back and forth with Senator Blumenthal, Danang Dick, today. Blumenthal came out with some crime numbers, and Kash fired back. In 2025, FBI New Haven made 469 violent crime arrests, up 162%. That sounds like a win to me. I don't care who it is, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, here's the thing. Before Kash Patel came in, violent crime was the number 8 FBI national priority.
What?
Number 8. So guess what priority number 8 gets in terms of funding and manpower?
Not much.
Right?
Not much.
You know, you're keeping the lights on basically. But those guys who work those programs they're dedicated. They're awesome dudes. When I ran a field office, I had a violent crime squad, a gang squad and everything, and they were awesome. But they just didn't get the love of the organization because violent crime used to be the FBI's bread and butter, and then 9/11 happened, and everything became national security, and then cyber.
Let me ask you this: how involved does the FBI get into RICO charges? Is that the wheelhouse of the FBI as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the FBI can develop RICO cases, but the problem with RICO cases is that they take a long time to develop.
Let me see if I can grab this call. I don't know if the audio is going to work for here. Let's see. Line 1. Where are you calling from? What you got, line 1? Line 1? I don't think we're hearing anything off of them. Maybe I don't know. They've done an upgrade. I probably have to upgrade my stuff. Maybe we won't take any calls tonight. Chris, let me ask you this: the fraud that's been exposed in Minneapolis, will that get handed over to the FBI, or how does this fraud stuff this billions of dollars from the Minnesota governor and on down, who ultimately gets the job of investigating that?
The FBI.
FBI
you'll see the FBI working that. Absolutely. The FBI has some great financial crimes people that will look at all of that. They'll look at the fraud. They'll look at the funding streams. They'll look at all the licensing. They have forensic accountants that'll go through all the books and everything to see where the anomalies are. They have some people that are really good at that stuff. So, the Bureau will be looking at that. And everybody says, well, it's in a state. It's not really a federal issue. It's federal money and it's wired across state lines. They're going to find a way to look at it if they want to.
Oh God, here's exactly what I'm talking about. Right here. Former U.S. Navy sailor. Man, this chaps my ass. He gets sentenced to 200 months for whatever the hell he did. I'm looking at the FBI's X account right now.
Mhm.
200 months for this. That's a hell of a long time. Good American name, Jing Kao Y. Good American
Yeah.
name there. Why a Hawaii man, 30 years in prison for paying adults to do horrible things to kids while live streaming. 30 years. I want wood chipper. That's kind of what I want. I see
Yeah.
cashier with some graduating people, which is great.
Yeah. New class.
A new class. I mean,
Yeah.
that's got to be. I think recruitment is up with the FBI. It seems like recruitment's up with ICE.
Yeah. Recruitment's up. Ben, let me tell you something though. Recruitment's up, but it's a matter of getting the right people. And then it's a matter of when you bring them in, orienting them to the doctrine and the culture that you want them to work in. Right. And we got away from that. And that's why a lot of folks came in. And let me ask you, where do most of the people get their leftist ideas from in the United States?
Social media.
And college.
Mm-hmm.
And where do you think the FBI goes to do a lot of its recruiting?
College.
Right. And here's the problem. And this is a strategic issue, right? So if you're looking at it for decades, and the military has this problem too, probably worse than the Bureau because they're so much bigger. But the Bureau changed its hiring priorities after 9/11, where it used to be they would hire more former military and police. Then the director Mueller says, no, we got to get more folks in here who understand this computer stuff, and we need more intellectuals. Well, then where are you recruiting those people from? Colleges.
Right.
So we started seeing a shift in the workforce over the course of a decade or so. And then those people moved into senior management positions, and they hold those leftist positions. And here's the problem. And I actually used to have arguments with some of my colleagues. It's like, hey, we didn't join them. They joined us. And if we're not going to toe the line on FBI values, beliefs, practices, what's acceptable. Hey, how about this? It's like, you can't tell me when you join the FBI that you have a work-life balance that you want to maintain. That work-life balance doesn't get it for the FBI, okay? Unfortunately, the bad guys are inconsiderate, and they do shit late at night and on the weekends.
Yeah.
Right? So when you hear people complaining about, why do I have to work tonight, or why do we have to do it on the weekend? Well, that's when the bad guys are doing stuff, or the spies, or the terrorists, or whatever, right? So the whole culture of the FBI shifted, and that's why I keep going back to that culture, because I tell people, culture creates a leadership environment. A leadership environment polices the operational practices and standards.
True.
Right? And you remember from the military, when you're looking at those chiefs and you're looking at those older dudes, they're the enforcers. They're the guys who either make the culture and enforce the culture or not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is, right? And the old agents were like that for me. Like, the old agents would not accept, and they wouldn't accept a lot of the garbage that happens now. Oh, we would have gotten our tails kicked for doing some of the stuff you see now with people at the Bureau. And, same thing, Secret Service, they were the same way. The old Secret Service guys, they were like the old Bureau guys.
Yeah.
And then they aged out.
Let me ask you this. I saw this comment fly by and I can't find it. Can you have dual citizenship and be an FBI agent?
No, that's a good one.
I'm looking online. I can't
so.
find anything. Right.
I don't think so.
That's
I think
good.
you have to be a U.S. citizen, completely, not any dual split, because you wouldn't be able to get your clearances.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Because every FBI employee has to have a top secret clearance.
Right.
Now, you may not work in the national security arena, but you still have to have a top secret clearance because of the systems that you can access.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here we go. Randy chimes in. Ben, I was in the 97 LAPD, something of a shootout. All we had were Berettas and Remingtons. Randy, I'm glad you're alive. Randy calls in all the time. Randy's an LAPD cop.
Ask Randy if he can qualify that was that the bank robbery shootout?
Randy, was that bank robbery? Let's see here.
Was that the bank robbery shootout where these guys showed up in body armor and had fully automatic AKs and just chewed the cops up.
Really?
Oh yeah. When you see
Wow.
the footage on it, it's amazing. These guys showed up in full body armor. You could see them taking rounds from the cops, and they just stood out in the open and just fully auto AK-47s chewed the cops up.
Wow. YouTube does not like me searching for that. I'll tell you that. Well, I'm going to tell you this. Chris, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I can't say thank you enough for coming on the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing I think we get through this first year of the organization. And I really think with a year behind, I want to be hopeful. I don't want to be one of these just black pill negative Nancy guys. But I feel like the first year, maybe just getting things in place and hopefully it gets better. Bohica said Dad was also one of 4 bilingual polygraph examiners at the time. Talk about no time off and way from home. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then Randy said, yes, sir. He was part of that shootout that you're talking about.
Yeah.
There you go. You
got to see the footage. It was unbelievable. The cops got chewed up. These guys, Ben, I'm telling you, they stood out in the open and they were taking rounds. You could see it hitting their body armor. And they just stood there and just laid the cops out because they had superior firepower. From what I understand, the cops had to run down the street to a gun shop using their own credit cards to buy heavier weapons than they had.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Hold on. Let me see here. Let's see if we can pull this up. Let me see if I can go here. Let's see here. So this is it.
Yeah.
What? I don't want that. Let me go here.
They have some really good footage if you can find it.
2 heavily armed bank robbers engaged in police with a shootout.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to show. I mean, that's pretty genius, bringing body armor. I mean, I hate to sound like that, but it's pretty damn genius.
I mean, they were like head to toe body armor, just taking rounds, and people were just. I think the cops were just again outgunned. It wasn't like the cops had. The cops had a lot of guts to engage in that gun battle, but they were outgunned.
Wow, that is.
And I always
crazy.
tell people, hey, you know as well as I do, pistol versus rifle, pistol loses.
Pistol loses. Yeah.
That's
Guys,
how it is. So
I'm going to put a link to Chris's YouTube page in the chat, and I'll pin it.
Oh.
So I really hope you guys will go check out Chris over on YouTube. He is not the what do you want to call it? The G-man, the evil G-man that people that the left would like you to believe. Apparently, law enforcement bad, criminal good. That's the new narrative. You know what I mean? That's the new narrative. Chris, you got anything to close it out with? Any predictions for 2026 or anything that you see happen? I know you can't talk about some of the stuff you might be testifying in or having to testify in because of your time where you were at, but feel free to say whatever you'd like.
Well, I'm hoping for a better 2026 than 25, but it's not looking good so far, right? I'm hoping we can get back to some cooler heads, a little less emotion, a little less conflict among Americans, right? I think we're a divided country. We got to have some reuniting as Americans and not as this group of just estranged cliques of people around the country. As far as the FBI goes, I'm rooting for them because I know what they should be doing. I know what stakes they're playing in and what the impact is of what they do because I did it. And I've seen that other side of the society that they and our fellow law enforcement partners work to keep pushed down and away from the good people of the world. So I'm rooting for them. I want Cash to get a grip on everything. Let's start doing business like professionals. Let's get back to being G-men. right? Let's get back to that old FBI, not the corporate FBI that kind of got us in this kind of trouble right now. I grew up under those old G-men, and I was sad that the newer folks never got to work under some of these older guys, right? Because they just never got that opportunity. It'd be like when you were in the Navy and there were some of those old dudes, you got to work under them, they kicked your ass, you
Old
knew how to do
chiefs that
things.
just beat the shit out of you. Yeah, exactly.
And now the new guys never get to experience those old war horses, right? So I'm hoping for a 2026 where we can come back together as Americans a little bit, not a little bit, and I'm hoping my FBI gets their act together and that they're protecting us against the threats and the world's becoming more unstable, and I hope they can pull it together and protect America and its people. And as far as, hey, we got the midterms coming up. The administration better get its act together too.
My one thing, if I could just pick up cash, I've had a bourbon with cash before, but if I could pick up the phone and give him one piece of information, or if I could give Pam Bondi one piece of information, stay off of TV for 6 months. If you gave me 180 days without being on a podcast, Fox News, CNN, whatever, if you just came out, press conference, we arrested these people and gone, just that quick, I think we would be better off, because I believe they talk too much.
You're right. And I'll close with this. And thanks again for having me on the show and visiting with you and your audience. I'll close with this. What both of them need is they need a solid, experienced leadership team around them. They don't have that right now. And they need people who are going to protect them like a Praetorian Guard, so that they can get the job done and not have to worry about their covering their flanks and fighting every day and making sure they're not getting shanked, by their own people. They need people who are going to get out there. Do you remember when you were on the boat? Who was the most feared person on the boat? It was the XO.
Absolutely. The XO was the enforcer.
They're the hammer. They need XOs, and they need a circle of leadership around them that will help to give them counsel, that will help give them ground truth, and that will help them do the jobs that they've been selected to do.
Absolutely. Chris, I'm going to let you go. It looks like a lot of people are saying they went over to your channel, subscribed to your channel, Ordinary People 9513. And now if you watch the show, you know what the 9513 was, because I figured it was a badge number. That's what one last question. Chris, sir, if you were asked to replace cash, would you accept the offer?
Yeah, it'd be an honor. I'd go back, and I would look to give the American people back the FBI that they deserve.
Damn, that's a good answer. I say it every day. If, as much as I hated the submarine life, the people I work with made it all better. But if I got called tonight, and Pete Hegseth used to be my boss. If Pete Hegseth called me and said, "Hey, Ben, you're going back to a boat," I would probably be so excited until I actually got there, and then I'd be like, WTF am I doing? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just my theory. That's my theory.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I would go back. It would be an honor to help, and I did the protective mission for 25 years, and I would go back and do it again if they let me.
Yeah, because you got a big background with the anti-terrorist stuff. Yeah. Okay. Guys, gals, girls, I'm going to shut it down. I give everybody one of these. This is my token. This is one of my stingers.
Amen. Hallelujah. And boom shakalaka.
He is a black preacher in Chicago. He got on YouTube and started calling Obama a long-legged Mac Daddy, and Obama had him shut down on YouTube.
Nice.
One of my favorite people on the planet. Guys, gals, girls, I'm going to shut it down. Let me hit finish here. Don't go nowhere, Chris.